she is literally put into an insane asylum. How isolated can you get? Stripped from all of her identity, completely taken away from her rights of being a mother, of being a wife, of being a citizen, of being a daughter, a sister, all of it stripped. And when you have no control over your identity being taken from you, what do you do? And so for her and for me, I came to realize I have everything because I have the Lord. My identity is in place no matter what my circumstances are. I could be banished to a corner of a building in a third-story, scary, insane asylum, or I could be on a desert island, no longer a mother, devastated. But I am still me, and I am a child of God, and I have my identity in place because it was always with Him.
Hi, friend. Welcome to Beauty in the Brokenness, where we have honest conversations about the Bible, our real-life struggles, and the hope God brings for healing. I'm your host, Teresa Whiting, a speaker, author, Bible teacher, but mostly a friend and fellow struggler. I don't know what you're carrying right now, but I want to invite you to encounter the God who is still creating beauty right in the midst of your brokenness. Well, welcome, friends. I'm excited to introduce you to my friend, Erica Colahan, today. Erica is an author. She is a busy mom, and she works full-time, and she has managed to write an incredible novel. And I happen to know she's working on another one.
Yeah.
But Erica, welcome to Beauty in the Brokenness. Before we jump into your novel, can you tell the listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
I will, and thank you so much for having me here. This is a real treat, and I know it's a little different for your program to have fiction, so I am honored. Yes, so I am a busy mom. I have 5 children of my own and my husband's too. So the ages are ranging from 30 years old down to 7 years old. So it's really been neat. My stepkids hadn't lived in the house with us too, but always busy, lots of different things going on. And I just love seeing all the different ages and development stages for these wonderful people. I'm privileged to be a part of their life. It's just a real blessing. So yes, with that, you can imagine all the busyness that comes and all the management of the different things. But it's the biggest blessing of my life. And then to make ends meet, my day job, I am in accounts payable. I've been doing bookkeeping and accounting for about 25 years. And I love it too because it's very logical and like a puzzle with ins and outs, and it's organized. And so my kind of crazy brain that's always creating and thinking of all these stories can kind of focus for a little while during the workday. So it suits me. But my creative side comes out in my thoughts and my stories. And I've been a storyteller since I was a little kiddo. I've been writing short stories for myself kind of since I could write. So I have a bin full of journals, but there was a lot of fiction in the journals. It wasn't like traditional journaling and diary writing. So I guess it's just always been a part of my life. But back in 2016 or so, God put it on my heart to write this particular story. It took a little while, but I did it, and I can't wait to tell you more about it.
Okay. I just want to tell the listeners, I met Erica through a writing group. We were in Hope Writers together.
Yep.
And she was part of my beta group. So she read a chapter of Grace for me.
Yes.
And then when her book, The Oystercatcher of Southwark, came out, I'm going to hold it up for anybody. Such a beautiful cover. So beautiful. When her book came out, she asked me to be a beta reader for her. So this is what you do when you're writers. You help each other and you read each other's work.
That's right.
And Erica, I haven't told you this, but I'm going to be really honest. I was doing this as a favor. Like, she's my friend. We read each other's work.
Yeah.
And you sent it to me digitally. And I hate
reading on the screen.
On a screen. Like, give me paper.
I know. I'm sorry.
So I was like, I'm going to read this as a favor to my friend. And you guys, I could not put I can't remember. I think I was reading it on a phone and I
Yeah.
couldn't put it down. I was like,
No.
oh my goodness, I was taking it with me everywhere. I'm in the bathroom, I'm in my car, I'm at a stoplight. I'm like, I got to see what's happening. It
Oh,
was
I
so
love it.
good. It was so
Thank you.
good.
Oh, that's the
So
best review. Just
it
write
was,
that on Amazon,
I
just like
think I
that.
did.
I know.
I
I'm
put it
kidding.
on Amazon, but hey, when you other readers out there read it, please write
Yes.
a review for her
Review.
on Amazon. It's so important. But
Thank you.
Erica, tell us what compelled you to write this particular story? And if you could also just give us a brief synopsis
Yep.
without any spoilers.
Yes, I can. So the two go hand in hand because this is based on the true story, life of my ancestor, my great great grandmother Mary, who I grew up talking about being a little kiddo with this imagination. I grew up hearing whispers through the family, the legend that she had tried to drown her own children in the Delaware River of South Philadelphia and then was committed to an insane asylum. So this was near where I grew up. You can imagine every time I would pass the river, I would imagine this scene or think to myself, what kind of mother would do this? No one ever talked about it in the family. It was like real hush hush. And it wasn't until later when I myself was a young mother, I was married, three little kiddos, and I thought, well, wait a minute. No one's ever mentioned the father or husband in this story. So, who was he? What was his role in this drama unfolding at the river? When I really got interested as an adult of, I want to know what happened here. No one else really wanted to pick up the thread. Everyone started saying things like, someone should write a novel about this someday. Well, I guess that was me. And so my mom is the historian and genealogist in the family, and she was doing all the hard work of, figuring things out. During that time, she was approached by an older woman who claimed to be the ancestor of the missing man in the picture. And so that's where the story began for me and the research. And so The Oystercatcher of Southwark is a fictional novel, historical fiction. It's framed as a dual timeline, but it is based on this story. So the bulk of the story is following Mary. She's a Italian Catholic immigrant in South Philadelphia, about late 1800s. And she's a young, vibrant girl in a difficult living situation of the times, just the constraints of society that were imposed on young women in particular, immigrants in particular. And she meets and falls in love with a Jewish fella from Warsaw. And therein lies the difficulty.
Mm.
These two folks were, it was not socially acceptable that they would be together. There were religious differences, also political differences at the time, which was very important. People who were part of this kind of political machine, as they say, in the late 1800s. The character's name is Jacob. He was a socialist. Mary was not. And so star-crossed lovers, and we follow their adventures. The book is framed by our modern day protagonist, Bella, who kind of represents all the women in my family that I know. I never knew Mary, my great great grandmother, but Bella is not me, but there's a piece of me. There's my mom, my cousins, my aunts, like all the folks represented in her story. And she is about 43-year-old woman in the suburbs of Philadelphia who is reeling from a very recent divorce. Her heart was completely broken. She finds herself childless, husbandless, and really has no identity. She's kind of like in a weak situation. She's kind of floundering. And in the novel, she is approached by an older woman who claims to be the ancestor of the missing man. And she goes on a quest to find out what happened to her great grandmother. And so he kind of hop between the two generations throughout the book until we see
Yeah,
what
you did a
happened.
good job with that dual timeline thing,
Thank
which
you.
I think is kind of hard
It
to
is.
do.
It
Um,
is.
but as you're describing, even just the setting of this story. So my grandparents
Hmm.
were Italian immigrants,
Yep.
all of them, all four. So both
Yes.
my mom's parents, both my dad's parents moved to Brooklyn, New York
Wow.
from Italy.
Yep.
started a store down by the docks.
Yep.
So they had my grandfather opened a deli, and they lived
Good. Yes,
upstairs from the
upstairs,
deli.
just like in this
So
book.
I'm reading the book and I'm like, this is my
Yes.
family
Yes.
history.
Yes.
It was
I love
all
it.
so familiar to me,
Yep.
and I felt like I told everybody in my family, like, you have to read this book. It's
Good.
like reading our family story.
Yes.
I think ours, yours was was it your great grandmother or great
Great,
great?
great is Mary.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mine was a little less,
For
mine
yeah.
was more like early 1900s,
Yep.
but so much of even just the docks and
Yes. I
the
love it.
wharfs, all of that was so familiar to me, and I
That's
was like,
fun.
this is so cool. And the the thug, the
Yeah.
mafia
Yes.
guy,
Yeah.
like, true story. I have an uncle who got involved in
Yeah.
that,
Oh, so
world,
easy to do. Yep.
and all that to say, the characters, the setting, I felt like I was kind of in the world of my own family.
I love
So
that.
that was really cool.
I
I
love
connected
that.
with it.
And I've heard a lot of people say that because, that immigrant experience, I mean, it was just so many people came from Eastern Europe and from Italy, Ireland, and different countries around that time. So many of us in America now, especially on the East Coast, share a similar background. So it
Mhm.
was really relatable. I love that.
Yes. Yes. You said that the story is a novel, but it's based
Yes.
on facts. Can
Yes.
you share some of, like, how did you decide, and
Yeah.
what's the truth and what's
Yep.
fiction?
Yep.
Tell us a
Without
little bit
giving
about that.
anything away, but so the framework of Mary's story is what we know to be true. I wrote the book. You mentioned Hope Writers. I was learning the craft of writing. I was writing and I was researching all this with my mom all at the same time. Um, the legends were true, in fact. Whether or not Mary was actually going to drown her children in the river, we have no idea. Um, it was the memory of her then 5-year-old daughter, who was my nana, who lived to be about 96. So who knows if that really happened or if it was a child's imagination. But Mary was committed to an insane asylum. It was the Blockley Alms House. My mom and I did go to the city archives in Philadelphia. Actually, this is a scene in the book, which is one
Mhm.
of my favorites because it's exactly how it happened. But in real life, it was my mother and I. You go down into this kind of catacomb, like this basement space, and this archivist works with you. And it's hit or miss what you're going to find because, we didn't have digital archiving back then. It was journals or ledgers or any kind of book that survived a fire or someone's attic. And it was
Mhm.
in the archives. And he came up from this, basement with this bunch of books all wrapped in paper and twine. And this one hadn't been opened and it was all dusty. And it was the actual ledger or a journal of intake of patients. And, there was my lady, Mary. I'll never forget that moment when I turned the page and there she was. So it was real. It was really true. Um, Unfortunately, the more research I did, the more I realized this happened to a lot of women at that time in our country. Up until that time, I mean, for hundreds of years, women were institutionalized when something wasn't going right, whether it was a social problem or, maybe a mental issue that was not out of the norm, but could have been handled with the proper care
Mm.
that we have in today's world. So harrowing to think, um, but really glad I found out and pushed through. So that is real, sadly. Mary was institutionalized. She did end up dying there 5 years later.
Mm. Mm.
Um, the other sad part that's real is that the family did get split up. The children, there were three, one little boy and two girls. And the two girls were put into a Catholic orphanage. And the little boy, their father was able to take him home. And they moved to Chicago, and he was raised Jewish. And my ancestor, the women, were raised Catholic. Um, and so the family was sadly split for generations
Mm.
until this novel, until we did this, and we were able to reconcile and meet the representatives of the Jewish side of the family, which was beautiful and amazing. So those things are true. Um, The other thing that's interesting that's true, you mentioned the beginnings of the mafia. My ancestor, so Mary's father, was definitely a part of the beginnings of the Philadelphia Mafia. At the time, it was basically political. Um, these political machines. So there was actually a senator. He became a senator later. He was a business person who owned a lot of property in Philadelphia, who helped the construction of a lot of the major buildings in the city. And he had a team of what they were called were street sweepers. And it was like a little army almost. You can Google it. It was like this white uniform, these brooms and these push carts, dozens of them per street, like block in South Philly. Like you didn't need that many. But what they were really doing was going out during election time and basically strong arming folks to vote a certain way. Um, there was a lot of fraud, and my ancestor was a part of that. He was recruited right off the docks from Italy, as per the custom, given a job, a place to sleep, food to eat. How could you say no?
Yeah.
And sadly got involved into this life. So that is also true, but we don't know a lot of detail about it. Um, Fiction, the fun part. So certain characters are essential, right? When you're writing a book like this, you have to, your main character, your protagonist has to get from point A to point B. You need some kind of runner or a middleman or, you know, a catalyst to get them
Yes.
there, or, someone who knows everything or someone who can gossip about something. And so here comes my favorite characters, and they kind of introduced themselves to me as I went. And my favorite is Vincenzo Carpinelli, the fishmonger on the docks. I mean, what better way to get things moving from A to B than someone who works at the docks, who sees everyone coming and going and knows everybody. Um, I love him. I have a particular heart for him because he loved Mary and was
Yes.
willing to sacrifice for her. So I think he's a really sweet
Yes, I
character.
have chills just when you mention his name.
I
I love
love
that
him.
guy.
I think he's a saint somewhere up in heaven. He must be based on a real person because he's Cenzo Carpinelli. Um, and yes, his name was intentionally his fishmonger, and his last name has the word carp in it. I know, but I couldn't help it. The other really cool side character who is fiction, completely fictionalized, but based on a true character, kinda, was Mrs. Oliver. She was the proprietor of an inn on the Delaware River north of Philadelphia in Bucks County, which is actually near where I live. And she, in real life, there was a woman who owned the tavern at the time, and that was unusual. She had inherited the property from, I think, from her father, which was unusual. But anyway, character's completely fictional. I thought she was kind of cool because she was like a, I don't know, she was different for her time. She was strong. She was smart. She was capable. And she kind of takes Mary under her wing and shows her a different way that she could live. So she was kind of fun too. It's completely
Hmm.
fiction. And then, of course, my thug, you mentioned Rocco Manza. Thank God he's completely fictional too. Of course, based on all the stereotypes
Right.
of the time. He was kind of a scary guy, would not want to know in
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately, there's probably a lot of real Roccos out there.
oh my
So,
gosh, right?
yeah. Yes. So, tell us, how did this book affect your family? You mentioned that there was some reuniting of the
Yep,
family
yep,
after the book was written. Like, what was that like? How did
yeah.
the writing of this story impact
Well,
your
it's
family?
interesting. It's a great question. I think of so many different ways, some positive, some neutral, and some not as positive. I think when you're looking at the generations before us, um, there was silence a lot of the times. People didn't talk about how they felt, they didn't talk about what was happening to them. There weren't the resources at hand to be able to understand what was happening to them. And so silence prevailed for a few hundred years. Before that, too, I'm sure. But in this case, for the generations that I'm talking about. And so to to silence someone's life like that, to me, is just like, is a devastating thing, and it has repercussions generationally. And so for me, growing up hearing whispers about Mary and not understanding what really happened, is a tragedy. And so I wanted to bring her voice to light because I felt
Mm.
like she deserved it, but also that we could learn and start conversations and grow from what we learned. Some of my family might not have felt the same way. Like, leave the past in the past. You might not like what you find. Let's
I've
not
heard that.
dig that up. Why would you? Um, and I respect that. And then there were some really big moments of healing with some of the older cousins, like so my mom's generation, some reconnection, and the one cousin who I just have so much respect for. He was one of my beta readers as well. Actually,
Mm.
he was my editor, my first editor. He has like this eagle eye, sharp eye, and apparently we discovered through conversations there was a lot of animosity toward the male figure,
Mm.
um, Jacob in the book, who had abandoned his family. What a scoundrel, and I didn't anticipate that because he was always such a mystery to me. But some folks didn't want him to be redeemed in a way.
Mm.
Um, didn't necessarily believe in a character arc for him, but I did. I believe that he probably had some problems. I think there was some addiction issues there for him. Was he perfect? No. Was Mary perfect? No. Were they in an impossible situation? Yes. But in my belief, I just know that Mary held on to her faith. I just know it. And so her hope and her faith stayed through the end. And in the end, both sides of the family grew to be beautiful families. In my case, my Nana, who was the 5-year-old child in the story, she had an incredible life. She was
Mm.
the mother of 6 children and then all the grandkids. I'm one of 30 grandkids from just one of those branches. 30 grandkids. Now there's greats.
Mm-hmm.
And she lived with such faith, my Nana. So this was Mary's daughter. After surviving this trauma as a child, being separated from her parents and her brother forever, beautiful woman of faith, intellect, wit, creativity, joy, humor, um, and then had this beautiful family. When we met the woman from the Jewish side, her name was Phyllis. She sadly died before the book came out. I dedicated the book to her, but she and her daughter came to meet the Italian Catholic family and reconcile. And incredible. I was not at that reunion. I was actually having a child. I couldn't go,
Mm.
but she and I mean, she sent the baby gifts and the letters, and she and I were able to connect. But I did not get to physically meet her. But my mom and her cousins and siblings did, and we heard from her that the little boy, my Nana's brother, who was a baby in the story at this time, grew to be an incredible man, just like Nana, this Jewish man in the community who was loved and
Mm.
prized and had this beautiful family, and his hope and faith and endured. And so that's the redemption for me and the hope. Um, there's been conversations, there's been reconciliations, there's been healing for me personally at a great level, for my mom and for some of my cousins and aunts, I think too. Um, I don't know. I just think it's so great. And what I wanted to say before, when we were talking before the podcast started, there are many times in life I feel like we put so much intentional, loving effort into things that we know are for the Lord and for our fellow man. And we might never see the fruit of that. We might die having never seen the fruit of that. I know we'll see it when we're in heaven. But we have to trust that what we're doing on this earth has implications and is important and makes a difference in the future. And the
Mm.
ripple effect of that through the generations, all pointing to God and God's glory. We might never see it, but you can still rejoice in it because you know it will happen. And I think that's
Yes.
what this book did for my faith. Um, and that's what I hope that my readers will take from it.
Yeah. Yeah. We're kind of on this just a little bit more personal track right now, and I'm curious. Every author writes out of their own experience. And even as, even as I was writing my latest Bible study scene, I was realizing like, oh, there's parts of this that I needed for me.
Yeah.
It's not
Yes.
just a book for you people out there. It's like, I need this.
Yep.
How did you find that as the author? Like
Yeah.
what areas in your life did you find healing or growth or redemption?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'll be happy to share. For me, having gone through a divorce in life, just so devastating when the family breaks up, when the vows you said are lost, and the ripple effect of that pain that happens. Um, you know, you- as a woman, as a human, as a mother, I started to feel unworthy of love almost in a sense. Like if my own husband could leave, like, my gosh, that's, something really wrong with me.
Mm,
I'm isolated and alone. And so, in the case of the novel, Mary's husband, they are parted for whatever reasons. You'll find out when you read it. She is alone. And in this case, she is isolated. She is literally put into an insane asylum. How
mm,
isolated can you get? Stripped from all of her identity, completely taken away from her, her rights of being a mother, of being a wife, of
mm,
being a citizen in the community, of being a daughter, a sister, all of it stripped. And when you have no control over your identity being taken from you, what do you do? And so for her and for me, I came to realize it I have everything because I have the Lord. My identity is in place no matter what my circumstances are. I could be banished to a corner of a building in a third story scary insane asylum, or I could be on a desert island, no longer a mother, devastated. But I am still me, and I am a child of God, and I have my
mm.
identity in place because it was always with Him. Um, that's almost going to make me cry, but
Tears are always
that's
welcome
it.
on this podcast. Always welcome here.
So
Yeah, that's beautiful.
that's it. That is it. This is a hard world. I mean, this is a hard life. Tough place to be. All of it can be taken, just like Job in the Bible. And what are you left with? You're left with everything. And that's
Mm,
what I believe Mary can do and say to
yeah.
us.
I love that. I mean, the name of this podcast is Beauty in the Brokenness. And that
There you
you see that in this book. You see a broken world,
Yeah.
broken individuals, broken families,
Yep.
broken relationships, and yet you do see the beauty that God brings in the midst of all that brokenness. So
Yes.
I just think it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Um who- I know you mentioned Chenzo was your favorite. Do you want to go back to who were your favorite characters, or you feel like we already kind of covered that?
I have to say, Sophie, I mean, the older woman who represents the Phyllis in real life,
Mm,
oh, I think she's my favorite character for sure. She is the combination of what I knew to be true for Phyllis, an actual person, her personality, her vivaciousness, her wit, her sharp tongue. Just, I don't know. I don't know if she had a sharp tongue or not really, but I can imagine it. But just her presence. And then she's also a combination of my grandmothers from both sides of the family. And just, I had a ball writing her because she's just a
mm,
cool old lady. I want to be like her. I want to
yes.
be like her when I'm older. I just want to be a cool old lady. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with her. And I love the budding friendship and relationship and care that goes in between her and Bella.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's beautiful. That kind of wrote itself. So yeah, Sophie would be my
Yeah.
favorite.
Yeah, that was neat. That was neat. One of the things you alluded to was just, I don't know if the word oppression of women is too
Mm,
strong a word, but
yeah.
just the way women were treated,
Mhm.
the way they were discarded and
Dismissed.
put away. Talk about that a little bit, and why was it important for you to kind of bring that out?
Yeah, that was a tough one. I have to say, I can't imagine. I've spent a lot of my young life, those little short stories that seem to be a theme for me. Now I live in a modern day, with all the comforts and greatness that comes with it and the challenges in a basically traditional family. Both my parents are still married. They were always very supportive of me, my brother as well. Anything I put my mind to, they were like, "Of course you're going to do that now. Like, of course you will, Erica," and just really supportive. So there was not, I did not feel the pain of being dismissed because I was a girl. I had a very loving family, supportive family, thank God. But as part of our culture, it just seems to be a theme for me that I feel like women, that just our nature to take on everything, um, and never lay it back down. Like there's a time and a place, of course, different stages and seasons of motherhood, especially, or caregiving for an elderly member of the family, or just brothers and sisters, even if you don't become a mom, of like nurturing other folks, which is beautiful. But somewhere along the line in our culture, in our Christian American culture, I think females forget to care for themselves and nurture themselves and to expect things for themselves. Like, not as an entitlement, I deserve this or that. I mean, but just that, well, why wouldn't I also receive care when I need it or
Mm,
love when I need it? Like, that's natural. I love giving that care. Why wouldn't I receive it? So, the fact that we are in a culture where we can do that and we're still not letting that happen. I mean, so many women in the world can't ever expect to receive care in
mm,
an appropriate manner, and they are oppressed. And yet here we are, and we're doing it to ourselves,
mm.
which I think is peculiar. So even in this institution for Mary, bringing it back to the novel, she still found ways to care for other people, and I believe to receive care from her fellow women who were in the same situation, from the doctor who was caring for her. Um, I think there's opportunity for growth there for us.
Yeah. I just want to point out too how in a culture in Jesus' day when women were completely dismissed and oppressed and ignored, Jesus went right to those women.
So
He
well,
sought them out.
love it.
He poured his heart and soul. He identified himself to those women. I mean, he
Yep,
just turned that narrative on its head.
I love
And
it.
I love that so much that Jesus has always been for women. And you
That's
see
right.
that when you read the Gospels. It's so
That's right.
clear. So, Erica, how do you hope readers will interact with this book? Like, do you have any kind of resources for them to do a
Yeah,
book club or something else? Like, what's your hope?
I actually do. My hope has actually been fulfilled a few times with some book clubs, including a Shalom group of Jewish women in Florida, and a nursing home type place, or um, a community of women who wanted to do a book club, which I just love. So I did, at the request of this woman who wrote to me, I put together a bunch of questions that are available as a guide that is downloadable from my website. It does have spoilers, so make sure you keep that in mind before you read it. But that resource is on my website. You can go to ericacolahan.com. It's ERICACOLAHAN.com. If you go to the contact and FAQ page, about halfway down, there's book club resources. And if you click on the link, you can download that.
I'm going to put the link in the show
Oh, that would
notes.
be great.
So that
Thanks.
way people don't have to go searching. It'll just be right
Okay.
there. It'll say book club
Thank
link.
you. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So every book has a core message. What is the core message of Oystercatcher? What is your hope that readers will take away?
Well, it's the word hope. I think, like I alluded to before, about being isolated or having things stripped away from you, no matter what, there is hope. Like, even in the darkest of places, you can find hope and joy in the Lord. And that's just the bottom line for me. That's the
Mm,
takeaway.
mm.
Mary had a hard life. And look at all the fruit and the beautiful joy that came from the brokenness of her life.
Yes. Yes. So as we close out the episode, this is just more on a personal note. Would you speak to the listener who's maybe struggling with that right now, who maybe feels invisible or dismissed or without hope? Would you speak to that listener?
I would just say to that person that no matter where you are or what you're facing, the Lord has already been there and He's seen it for you, not just for your mom or your grandma or other people before you, but you. He knows you intimately. He knows everything about what is happening in your mind and in your heart, and He's meeting you there. And to reach out to other people. You're not alone. There are resources, there are books, there are podcasts like this wonderful podcast that Teresa's doing. And so fellowship and friendship with others is going to be helpful as you discover that for yourself, that you're not alone and there's always hope.
Mm. Thank you so much, Erica. Thanks for taking the time to be my guest today and to share about this book. And this is a little different. As you mentioned, this is a different kind of episode. I typically don't do fiction, but I thought it would be really fun just to give the readers like a good summer read. And
Yeah.
the problem is they're going to be done with this one really fast because you can't put it down. So
I better write the next book
yes,
faster.
yes. Can you give us a little clue on what that one is?
Yeah,
Or
my next book is actually a contemporary fiction. It's a little easier to write because you don't have to do as much research. So hopefully I'll be able to get it done. But it's middle-aged woman, American woman, similar setting because it's Philadelphia, my hometown. I love. And she is also going through a recent divorce, but is reclaiming her life. She is starting a new career as the owner of a bed and breakfast. She has grown children, and she's learning how not to interfere with all their drama, which is kind of fun to explore. And she has a mysterious guest who happens to be a really neat guy that I'm not going to give away anything. But
all right.
They end up facing a drama with a flood, and they have to work through how to survive it.
All right. Well, we will look forward to that one. But thank you so much again for being on the podcast.
This was so great. I appreciate that you bent the rules a little bit to have some fiction on here, and you're doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for having me.
Well, wasn't that so much fun? I love that conversation with Erica, and I hope you will run out and get your copy of Oystercatcher of Southwark. There is a link to order it on Amazon in the show notes. Now, if you'd like the opportunity to win a free copy of her book, all I ask is that you go on to Apple Podcasts and leave Beauty in the Brokenness a 5-star rating and review. Take a screenshot of it, and you can text it to me, you can email it to me, and I will enter you into a drawing for a free copy of The Oystercatcher of Southwark. And then I will send that book directly to your house. I'll put all the details of that giveaway in the show notes. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Beauty in the Brokenness. To find everything I've mentioned, including all these resources, the links, and ways to connect with Erica, go to teresawhiting.com/listen. In closing, I want to leave you with this prayer from Numbers 6, 24-26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace.